चलो जी बंद।
Can you listen me? You are unmuted by the host. Okay, that's great. So, can you listen me now? Okay, that's okay. Thanks very much. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, So today's topic is about the puberty disorders. I made a little bit change in the presentation. Few of them they are the graphics and other is the free text written in that. So I don't let me know in the end of that that which one is better for the presentation or for you people. So it's very difficult to prepare. Okay. So what are the causes of the delayed puberty and hypogonadism? Because there are two problems. Either there will be hypergonadism or there will be a hypogonadism. And hypogonadism lead to delayed puberty. So we need to differentiate between them. First of all, what causes these? Most of the time it's the one of the other hormone excess or there is a reduction in the reciprocal hormone. Then comes the polycystic ovary syndromes, this granulosa cell tumors, leading cell tumors, teratomas, and pituitary gonadotropinomas. So these are broadly categorized into that. So there will be tumors and the non-tumor in that inflammation, infections, and all these things. So the key issue to determine is what is going on. Is it just a slow clock that there is a constitutional delay of puberty or there is something abnormal going on? For example, hypothalamus or pituitary, hypo or hypergonadism or hypogonadotrophism. So is that it is a physiological or is it a pathological? So for hypogonadism causes there are numerous. For example, among them will be the endocrine conditions, chronic systemic illness, for example, asthma, malabsorption, celiac disease, cystic fibrosis, failures, excessive physical exercise, Cushing syndrome, primary hypothyroidism, anorexia nervosa, hyperprolactinemia, psychological disorders, and then there will be a functional gonadotropin deficiency. And among them will be isolated gonadotropin deficiency like Kalman syndrome as well. So these are the causes for the hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. So there will be a hypergonadotrophic hypogonadism as well. Among them will be the trauma or surgery to the gonads, acquired gonadal damage, then will be MUMSAR or coitus as well, autoimmune gonadal failure, hemochromatosis, and the tuberculosis. So these are the two. First, this the tuberculosis is the most important in our setting. Then chemotherapy and radiotherapy to the gonads because the cancers they do occur in the kids as well, so they can lead to we give the chemotherapy and radiotherapy and all they can damage that. So there is a huge list of them. So it's very sometimes difficult to find the records for them. Then there will be the developmental or congenital gonadal disorders in which there will be a Klinefelter syndrome, then will be a steroid biosynthetic defects, then there will be a orchitism or diploidism in the males and the Turner syndrome in the female. So these are the all causes for that. It's difficult to remember them honestly, but you may have to do that. You have to do that. But when we will start working or seeing these patients, then we will remember most of them. Then it looks very simple, straightforward, not as difficult as it looks now. So when you take a general history and physical examination in these kids, you have to know about the previous or the current medical records. What diseases does he have? What previous diseases was he or she has? Then there will be a social circumstances and family history because the genetic problem they will be running in the family and the social circumstances they will be a risk factor for few of these conditions. For example, tuberculosis, it is also a social. So if someone is living in the crowded home and someone has the parents with the tuberculosis, he may present with that. Then you will look at the body proportions. Is it a short stature or is it a long? Or is there any abnormal thing which you are seeing over there? Then the sense of the smell and the puberty age. So this is very important. So previous growth measurements in the children in our setting we don't see this one in the in our record. Very few people they have it, but in the other countries where there is a regular chart system, so their measurements, growth measurements, they will be in the notes, clearly mentioned over there because the file goes, the same file goes to every specialty doctor. So it is very easy to find over there. So therefore, they are writing that previous growth measurement in the childhood, they will be giving additional information. So what is the constitutional delay of the puberty? That is the most common cause. It is considered as a normal variant. So mean there is no underlying pathology in that. And there will be a more than two standard deviation below the mean height. Mean two standard deviation mean if that there is a range for that, and that is a source to standard. So it can be below that and above that, that will be considered the normal variant. But if it's more than the group, the standard, the two standard deviation, either it's below or it's above, it means that is abnormal. So then we have to consider these conditions. There will be a family history of delayed puberty, brothers and sisters, parents, so all people communicate. Then you will measure the bone age X-rays through the wrist, and it will be going lately as compared to the chronological delay. So this they will not be showing the same age as the chronological delay is showing. So there, considering all this, there will be a lot of psychological distresses among the family and among the patient itself. But in that, this is the most important, very for the parents when it happens. But eventually, the puberty will commence spontaneously, so there will no need to worry about that. So this is the most common, and if that is a thing that there is no need to worry, just reassure the patient, and if you don't find anything abnormal. So what are the then what hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism shows? There will be a structural, inflammatory, or infiltrative disorders which can lead to that. In that, there will be a low body weight, chronic systemic illness will be there, endocrine disorders will be there, and the psychological stress will be there. So among them, the most common again is the functional gonadotrophic deficiency. But the systemic illness will be the consequences of the disease or secondary to the malnutrition. It means that either the disease is preceding and it has led to chronic systemic illness, or patient is malnourished and it has causes these problems. So it's a goal way. So be careful when you are investing these patients. So what is the primary cause? And five, for the primary, there will be secondary causes as you know, and primary causes. So in primary gonadotrophin deficiency, either there will be a gonadotrophin releasing hormone deficiency or there will be a gonadotrophin itself. So the symptoms will be if the patient he will present with anosmia or hypospia. In that there will be agenesis or hypoplasia of the inflammatory pipe. So that means that here the culprit will be lying. So there is agenesis and hypoplasia that will lead to anosmia. About the tall stature, what will that the epiphyseal will fail to diffuse. That will lead to tall stature. That will lead to disproportionately long arms and legs, and there will be arthropodism, that undescended testes, and there will be a gynecomastia. So these are the features which will give you a clue or will lead to these this diagnosis. Then there will be a hypogonadotrophy. Hypogonadism, and if it's boys, they will be clinical. If it's the girls, then will be a Turner syndrome. So how will you investigate these? So normally what investigation you do the gonadotrophic concentrations, they can be elevated, they can be low. Among them will be alleged FSH, testosterone, and estradiol in the girls. So if someone has the gonadotrophic concentrations are elevated, you will go for the chromosomal analysis. If someone has a low gonadotropins, then there can be a constitutional delay or there can be a hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. In that, you have to go for the neuroimaging and further investigations there. But what other investigations will you do? You will do the plain X-ray of the wrist. full blood count, renal functions, liver functions, thyroid functions, celiac disease, autoantibodies, because they will give you a clue. As we know that the diseases, they are either again infectious, inflammatory, malignancies, or infiltrative. So thyroid function test, celiac disease, there are antibodies. If someone has these autoantibody diseases, he may have the other autoantibodies. So and there can be other malnutrition. They can present with the anemia. They can present with the raised liver enzyme, and eventually you will do the X-ray of the wrist. Then you can organize the MRI purpose. So if you find one of the misdiagnosis, then for the target is to induction of the puberty. For that, we are going to give the low dose of the estrogen in the girl, and you can give, for example, ethanol, steroid oil, 2.2 daily. If in the boys, you are going to give testosterone, then or depot testosterone. High doses carry a risk of early fusion of diseases, so they can lead to short stature if you overly treated these patients. But these patients, they are managed in specialist clinics to monitor the progress of the puberty and growth. So it will be not just, they will be asking you very straightforward question among these. They will not be asking you the detail about these conditions, because it is the really is a specialist subject where a lot of endocrinologists, they are involved there, not even the general physicians. But if hypogonadism is permanent, then sex hormone doses are gradually increased during puberty. So you have to give continuously give those. The second condition which comes under the pubertal disorder is the amenorrhea. So there are primary amenorrhea, secondary amenorrhea, and there are some rare causes. In the primary amenorrhea are those female patients who have never menstruated. They manifested by the delayed consequence of the anatomical defect of the female reproductive system. There will be an endometrial hypoplasia or melaninogenesis. There can be other associated risks from that. In secondary amenorrhea, there will be a cessation of menstruation. The patient has menstruation before and now it ceases. It will be invariably a consequence of ovarian hypothalamic or pituitary dysfunction, and there can be premature ovarian failure. There will be a premature menopause that is also defined. They occur before the age of 40 years. So in the rare condition where there can be an endometrial adhesions, there is Oshman's disease, then uterine carotid surgery, infection with tuberculosis. So see, the tuberculosis is everywhere. Like we say that this tuberculosis in every specialty, people they have a high suspicion to diagnose that, because it's an infection, chronic infection, which leads then in destroy the organs slowly. Then there will be ascistosomiasis, which will be preventing endometrial proliferation and shedding, and that will cause the amenorrhea as well. So these are the causes. So how will we clinically assess these patients? Clinical feature depends on the patient's age. There can be hypothalamic pituitary disease, and that can result in significant loss of weight. Its loss of weight will be a dual way. It can cause it and it can be the consequence of it. Then there will be a history of kleptopia. There can be a history of weight gain, but if someone has the weight gain, then underlying lesion will be hypothyroidism, Cushing syndrome, or the hypothalamic lesions. So these over here. But weight in the weight loss, you will get the clue that he may have an infection, he may have a chronic inflammation. Then there will be a premature ovarian failure. In that, there will be estrogen deficiency. So people, they will be having those symptoms. Polycystic ovary syndrome, that is also one thing. These patients, they will present with hirsutism, obesity, and long-standing irregular periods. There can be a possibility of autoimmune premature failure as well, and there those can get the all other features of the hypogonadism. So investigation again in this, when we are looking for the amenorrhea, so you will do urine and serum human chorion and gonadotrophin, so to rule out any pregnancy or anything. Before that, if someone has, then once it's established, then you will do serum LH, FSH, estradiol, prolactin, testosterone, T4, and TSH. So anyone who comes up who presents with the amenorrhea, you will do the thyroid function test and you will do these hormone levels. High concentrations of LH and FSH with low or low normal, it shows that there is a primary ovarian failure. So if their LH and FSH will be high and low normal estradiol also is primary. If there is an elevation of LH, prolactin, testosterone with a normal estrogen or common, that will be the polycystic ovary syndrome. Elevated LH and the prolactin along with the testosterone and the normal estradiol, so polycystic ovary will be the cause. If there is a low level of LH and FSH and estradiol, it suggests that there is a hypothermic or the pituitary. And in that case, we are going to organize the MRI of the pituitary. So normally, what happens that the endocrinologist they do have what we call it booklet for the endocrine investigations. That there are the algorithms nowadays. I think they will be on the websites. So the things now they have changed significantly as compared to when we were studying. Like in when Professor Mahmood Alam Sahib was giving a lecture to find out how to correct the hypokalemia or how much potassium will you give. Nowadays there are a lot of calculators on the website. So just click on those things. You can find out how much sodium do you need, how much water do you need for hypernatremia, or sodium you need for hyponatremia. You want to calculate GFR, you want to check to calculate potassium level, how to replace that. So all these they are present in the on the internet. So try to use them even for the diabetic ketoacidosis. And all these things they are coming up, and more algorithms will be coming up in future. So when you will be practicing. So similarly, these they might be in future you will be getting these calculators where you will put the LH and the FS value, estradiol value, and it will give you the probability that what is the probability for having a certain disease. So this keep in mind. So low LH, low FSH, estradiol normally hypothermic appetite. Elevated LH, prolactin, testosterone, estradiol normal PCOS. High concentration of LH, FSH with low normal estradiol primary ovarian. So if there is a confusion between the hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism and PCOS because the estrogen and gonadotrophin overlap. In that situation, you are going to give a called a methoxyprogesterone acetate challenge test. 5 days of treatment with oral progesterone that will be given 10 milligram twice daily. And if after giving the progesterone, menstruation occur a few days later, this progression will cause maturation and menstruation will occur a few days later. After progesterone is stopped, then it is called PCOS. So if menstruation will occur, it is PCOS. But if menstruation does not occur following the injection, it is hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. So this is a simple test which you can use it to diagnose that. So that will help you to define them because a lot of patients who present with these they either have PCOS and hypogonadism. PCOS is very common. I will explain to you a little bit in the end about this because it is not only the hirsutism, not only with the obesity, not only with the metabolic syndrome, but other problems with that intelligence. So manage how do you manage the patient with the amenorrhea? To find the cause for which can be treated. Then functional amenorrhea due to excessive exercise and low weight should be encouraged to reduce their exercise and regain some weight. If someone has estrogen deficiency, replace it to treat the symptoms and to prevent the osteoporosis as well because estrogen deficiency leads to that. Women who had a hysterectomy can be treated with estrogen, but if she does not have uterus removed, then you need to give the estrogen and progesterone together. But there is a risk of the endometrial cancer as well. So this cervical hormone replacement therapy HRT regimens typically involve giving estrogen on day 1 to 21 and progesterone on the day 14 to 21 of the study. Can be conveniently administered as the oral contraceptive pills because they contain both silicon. So estrogen side effects, they are the what is called fluid retention, weight gain, hypertension, and the thrombosis. So all those people who are on the estrogen drugs, so be careful about particularly about the thrombosis and the hypertension because fluid retention and weight gain, the patient will present that will come, but he will not be aware of the thrombosis risk, as it is a very significant if someone is traveling long distances. So in that, it will be very, what we call it, be careful about that. Then there will be hypertension as well. Now there is a male hypogonadism. There can be both hypo and hypergonadotropic hypogonadism. The symptom will be this loss of libido, lethargy with muscle weakness, decreased frequency of shaving, may present with gynecomastia, infertility, delayed puberty, osteoporosis, and anemia of the chronic disease. So as I mentioned early on that they can present with these, or they can have the consequence of these aspects. Anemia of chronic disease, it is included. How will you investigate them? It will be confirmed by demonstrating a low serum testosterone level. After that, you will, but this is low, then you check the serum, random LH and FSH. So first test the serum testosterone. If it's if it's low, then you ask for the LH and FSH. And then this these biochemical hypogonadism is associated with centropathy and metabolic syndrome. Then you have to investigate for the other things as well. Then, including considering the autoimmune disease, you will do the thyroid function test, check his blood sugar as well to rule out that. Testosterone level, be careful, they do fall gradually with the age. And if someone has a very low and there is some feature of clinical, then you have to do the chromosomal analysis. Management is replace the testosterone. There are indications for the testosterone. You will advise, give prescription to those who are younger men with significant hypogonadism. You want to prevent osteoporosis. You want to restore the muscle power and the libido. Titrate the dose according to the symptoms. Circulating testosterone levels, they will give you a rough guide. So do not make the changes in that depending upon the testosterone level. As nowadays there are a lot of hormones they check the level in the serum. For example, you change the L toxin depending upon that TSH level, and again you change the level of flumethazole depending on the TSH. Similarly, you give the serum cortisol according to the level, and there are drugs like gentamicin. We check the level before increasing the dose or reducing the dose. So these drug levels sometimes they cannot give you the good percent. So in that, consider the patient's symptom. But it can aggravate prostatic carcinoma, so you need to get the PSA before you start the patient on the therapy, especially if someone is older than 50 years of age. Now I will come talk about a little bit about the infertility. So 1 in 7 couples, they present with the infertility of their reproductive age. It causes a huge psychological distress. If you during your practice or during your house job, particularly the female, if they work in gynae, there will be a huge number of people who will be attending this infertility clinic. Nowadays, there since IVF has came in, so it is very costly treatment sometimes for the poor population, and there is an overuse of that as well. So they're overly doing these IVFs treat infertility. So, particularly female, they need to have a very solid concept for that. So in women, what are the causes for that? There will be anovulation or abnormalities of the reproductive tract that prevents fertilization or embryonic inflammation. Often damage fallopian tubes from the previous infections, they can lead to that. With these infections, they can be gone unnoticed or they can have very few symptoms and later on they can cause the problem. But in the men, there will be an impaired sperm quality, there will be a reduced motility or reduced number. Azoospermia or oligospermia is usually idiopathic and not harmful. So it can be a consequence of hypogonadism. So in that, microdeletion of 5 chromosome is recognized as a abnormal spermatogenesis. But most of the time, more than one factor is involved when the subfertility is present. And in large population or proportion, no cause can be identified. So what will be the clinical assessment? It is important in infertility for both men and women. There can be a history of previous pregnancy or there can be no pregnancy at all. So relevant infection and surgery, ask about that. Sexual history must be explored in detail. Will be a lot of psychosexual difficulties or problems, psychiatric problems are common as well, both in men and women. So they are causing a lot of these limits in them. So irregular or infrequent menstrual periods, PCOS should be considered in that. Then you will look for the structural abnormalities of the testes and the scrotum in the men. So it involves the both partners, not only women, but huge number of the men should be investigated as. So both partners need to be investigated. Couple should have failed to conceive for at least 12 months. There should be a history of amenorrhea. So analysis wise, you will do the semen analysis to assess the sperm count and the quality. And ovulation will be confirmed by elevated serum progesterone concentration at day 21 of the menstrual cycle. Normally, transvaginal ultrasound is done to look at the uterine and the ovarian anatomy. Tubal patency can be examined by a laparoscopy or by a hysterosalpingography. So all these are not only the non-invasive, but they are the invasive investigations as well. Then there is assessment of the sperm survival in surviving mucosa, along with the unexplained infertility, but they are rarely helpful. So you need to know that which investigation should be done and first and the second later. But this as I told you earlier that this is a very specialized part which if someone working in medicine don't see oftenly, but only in the endocrinologist. Sometimes the obstetrician or gynecologist they ask for the endocrinologist to find out the cause for that. Among the management, identify the cause of the male or female infertility. If someone has a polycystic ovary syndrome, you are going to try to give aclomethane, where there is an anovulatory cycles, and ultrasound monitoring is recommended at least for the first cycle to see the response. Then you can give a daily injection of SF or an injection of HCG to induce ovulation. If someone has a hypothermic disease, then you are going to give the pulsatile gonadotropin releasing hormone therapy, and it can be given in the portable infusion pump as well. So monitoring of the response is essential to avoid multiple ovulation. Monitoring of the follicular growth by transvaginal ultrasound and blood estradiol level is mandatory. So in that, everyone, if you do any start any drug, or you monitor or you want to increase the dose or you want to see the response, so there is a involvement of all these hormones, you need to check them. And they are not cheap to do it, for particularly for the poor community. So in that it is a costly. Every maneuver and every treatment, every intervention is costly because it involves a lot of ultrasound imaging and a lot of biomarkers of these hormone analysis, which we have to repeatedly do it, not once. So they are not only for diagnosis, but they are also for monitoring the the response of the disease or the progress. So there can be a ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome that is characterized by enlarged ovaries, and there can be a capillary leak, circulatory shocks, there can be pleural and ascites. So IVF is widely used for many causes of infertility if it's more than 3 years. So therefore, nowadays there are infertility clinics. I am not sure that they are in the public hospital. These infertility clinics are there or not, but they are all there. In Lahore, at least there are 4 or 5 infertility clinics. But being a career point of view, there should be some infertility clinic in the public hospital because it is a main problem in the reproductive age, particularly for the young. Now, I will talk about a little bit about the hirsutism. What is that? It is the excessive growth of the thecal terminal hair. It is androgen dependent and it is distributed in women. It occurs on the upper lip, the chin, the chest, the back, the lower abdomen, thigh, and the forearm. One of the most common presentation of the endocrine diseases. So it is important to distinguish from the hyperthyroidism. So generalized also excessive growth of the villus hair will be there. So hirsutism it is common in a lot of other endocrine diseases. So it's very difficult sometimes to find out the cause for that. Among the most common causes the polycystic ovary syndrome. So during the clinical assessment, always ask about the drug history and the menstrual history. Calculate the body mass index, measure the blood pressure, examination for the realization if it's recent onset. So in that there will be clitoridally, bleed voice, male pattern balding, and breast atrophy. It is system of androgen secreting tumor, though it's a rare disease. Think of acne vulgaris or Cushing syndrome, they can cause this. Testosterone, check prolactin, and hormone levels as well. There can be a congenital adrenal hyperplasia due to 21 hydroxylase deficiency, and it will be confirmed by a short synaptic test. It's also called acid stimulation test, which will measure after that. Giving that, you are going to measure 17 hydroxyprogesterone, so that will give you the proof of that. So treatment-wise, there are cosmetic measures such as shaving, bleaching, and waxing for hirsutism. But nowadays, the laser therapy is very helpful and very successful. Some of the creams they can be advised eflornithine cream, which inhibit the ornithine rebounds in the hair follicles. Then anti-androgen therapy is given. As the life cycle of the hair follicle is at least 3 months, so do not think any improvement before the 3 months. So there will be no improvement before that, and so you have to wait for at least 3 months to see the result. Metformin and thiazolidine has been used previously a lot of time, and it has been less effective at treating hirsutism than at restoring menstrual irregularities. So, if someone has a menstrual irregularity along with the hirsutism, so a lot of endocrinologists they give the metformin. As we know, the metformin is the drug of choice for the diabetes mellitus, for type 2 diabetes mellitus, and thiazolidinediones they are also used for that. So they reduce the blood sugar as well, and it has a dual effect. It will reduce the weight as well, and it will improve the hirsutism. But the more significant is the loss of weight. If you are not going to lose the weight, you take metformin, you take any other thing, you will not be going to get rid of that. So hirsutism will return if therapy will be discontinued. So first consider significantly to reduce the weight. So that will be the first treatment option. Then we will start the medication. Now comes about the gynecologist. That is the presence of plenty of breast tissue in the milk. It results from imbalance between androgen and testosterone. The most common causes are physiological. The common causes in medicine which we concentrate are the CLD and the spironolactone. They are the two common causes which we use. So always think about the drug history. It is very important. That it is often asymmetrical. You need to distinguish from the prominent adipose tissue. The feature of hypogonadism should be sought, like other symptoms related to that you need to ask. Then test examine for the evidence of hypothyroidism, atrophy, or a tumor. For that, we're going to do the ultrasonography or mammogram. A random testosterone and FSH estradiol progesterone HCG will be requested for that to diagnose the causes for that. Management will be depending upon the cause, so you have to identify the cause first. Then you will look for the significant psychological disturbance of that other condition. Androgen replacement will improve the gynecologist, but anti-androgen tamoxifen may also be effective in reducing the size of the breast tissue in this condition. But always look for the side effects of the tamoxifen because all these medications they are not free of drugs. Now, the polycystic ovary syndrome. This is the most common among the female and it is always a lot of time underdiagnosed. It affects like up to 10% of the women of the reproductive age. It is a heterogeneous disorder, often associated with obesity. Primary cause remain uncertain. In fact, it can affect several family members, so genetic is important. So there will be a genetic history for this disease. Infertility may also be present. So what would be the features for that? There will be to have a suspicion for that. There will be a menstrual irregularity. There can be a clinical or biochemical androgen excess, multiple cysts in the ovaries, and there will be an increased risk of glucose tolerance because these people they are obese, they have the metabolic syndrome, they will be having high blood pressure, they can have along with the later on with the cortisol, high cortisol as well. So all these are the conditions which can associate with that. So screen these patients for type 2 diabetes, other cardiovascular factors, and the other metabolic syndromes to diagnose these. So mainly they will present with the menstrual irregularity or infertility. So there can be oligomenorrhea with irregular heavy menstrual periods. May not require treatment until fertility is visible. But if someone gets infertility, then then that will be the indication for the treatment. And normally we give metformin for reducing. One is insulin resistant, it will reduce that, restore the control. May restore regular ovulatory cycle in the overweight women. So this drug we will start the patient first. He will have to lose the weight, then the start the drug, and after starting the drug, the patient should watch his weight regularly. Try not to increase the weight. It's less effective than clonifene at restoring fertility. So it has a little role in the fertility, but it is has the predominantly for the institution. Thiazolidine can enhance insulin sensitivity and restore menstrual regularity in the polycystic ovary syndrome. They are contraindicated in women who are planning pregnancy. So if someone does not have the infertility, he has the other problem in that they want to plan for the pregnancy, do not start these patients on this medication. In women who have few periods each year are amenorrheic, the high estrogen concentration is associated with this and can cause endometrial hyperplasia. Progesterone can be administered on a cyclical basis to reduce regular shedding of endometrium and withdrawal bleed. The progesterone impregnated uterine coil can also be fitted with that. So this is for the polycystic ovary syndrome that we need to be careful. It's a very common problem, and not a lot of people will present with that. But like if you see that in the general population, the polycystic ovary syndrome will be common. But if you go, the infertility will not be common. But if you go to the infertility clinic, like in general medicine clinic and infertility clinic, if you go into the infertility clinic, you will see a lot of time polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it depends upon that in which spectrum of the patients you are searching for the cause. So the cause can be different in one setting and it can be different in the other setting. So it is a very common phenomenon in the different settings. So that's all for today. If you have any question, just please let me know. Any questions? This is the topic uh, which which is not too common in the what we call it in the medicine. Though there can be very rarely they can be asking the question if you are unlucky. So if you are unlucky, then they will be asking you a question. This is a more related to the general knowledge which you need to know about the infertility, because that is the most important topic, particularly for female point of view, and because a lot of relatives, close friends, they ask about their personal advice on this issue. Among the male, it is also common. We know that a lot of people, young adults, they have a problem while interpreting and looking at the reports of the semen analysis. Not a lot of laboratories they are doing in the right way. For example, I give you the example that in every GP conference in Pakistan and everywhere, particularly in Pakistan, every main conference has the what we call it lectures on this infertility and hirsutism. Male infertility is a separate topic, female infertility is a separate topic, and the maximum people of doctors who attend these meetings, they want to know about these two common topics. So take it seriously, and even if someone in the surgery, in the urology, in the gynae of they are not patient the good with these. So, any questions? Very quiet, very quiet. Am I right? Or you are tired? Because there is a two consecutive lectures, one from the surgery and the back-to-back lectures, but we call it normally. So might be you have lost your concentration. Or the lecture was boring. We don't know. So give me feedback at least. Adnan, Ahmed, Sufyan. Arslan, Ahmed Bhatti, Maida. So there are 123. There are 123 participants in that. Okay. Abu Bakr. So how is preparation going on and how is Ramzan going on? Though it's not, it's now few more rosas left. So how is the time going on? Ahmed Bhatti, Fahad, Arslan. No question so far. That's good. But are you with me? Can you listen to me? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is the meaning of yes, sir? It means you are busy somewhere else and now you have responded that yes, sir. Yes, sir. The same as in the class, isn't it? Can, no, it doesn't mean that you are listening. It means that you are busy somewhere else and now when I typed on that, then you have responded to that. It means we are listening. Or we are listening. So if you're listening, ask me any question then. That no, it probably won't be answering to you. Or if we were busy, no, you will be busy because I know my daughter, she is attending these lectures online because nowadays every college, every university is giving the online lecture. So there are a lot of kids that do enjoy as well and while putting these on the lectures, but it depends upon. So generally, how is it going on at home? Are you people anxious to come back or you're happy over there? How is the lockdown? Okay, so I will head off then. That's okay. Thanks very much, everybody. If you don't have any further questions, then I will go away. Then hopefully, but not now. I will just end this lecture. Any, so when will be the Eid? Is it on Sunday or is it on Monday? Any guess? I know that my Maulana will announce the Eid on. He will look at the Friday. So, Aslan, you are waiting for the Eid in Dubai. See, why not in Peshawar? क्या बात है हारिस हारिस की एंट्री इसमें डल गई है इसका. It was quite on long, but now he has given the exact date. So who can जब भी हो सर अच्छी हो, that's very good. Very good. शाम वाले 2 दिन पहले भी कर लेते हैं. So anyway, okay, stay blessed. So okay, that's fine. Now it's 57. So बात तो ये भी सच है, पर कुछ भरोसा नहीं. Which halal committee is it city halal committee or is it the national halal committee? कहते हैं पंचम हलाल का है कौमी निशान हमारा. Okay, international halal committee. That's good. Okay, everyone. Thanks very much.